Well, thanks for joining us today. My name is Dan Meyer. I'm editor-in-chief at RCR Wireless News. And today we're joined by Andy Huckridge, who's the Director of Service Provider Solutions at Gigamon, to talk a bit about the company and its work in the security space in terms of telecom operators. So, hey, Andy, thanks for joining us again. We appreciate it. Good to talk to you.
Thanks very much, Dan. It's lovely to be here, and hello to all of the viewers as well.
Very good. Well, maybe start off with, I know maybe for like a quick background on the company. I know we've talked a little bit in the past about Gigamon, but maybe for those who don't know much about you guys, maybe a quick 1 minute kind of overview on the company itself.
Sure, thanks. So Gigamon provides visibility to networks, to traffic on the networks. In this day and age of multiple different network types, all the way across enterprises, service providers, federal, we provide visibility to the traffic on the network. So we have a visibility fabric that's made up of software that sits on different nodes across the network, and then provides access to the traffic to analytic tools sitting in a centralized or distributed locations. And then we provide the ability to optimize that traffic to make the analytic tools run much more efficiently, so that operators or enterprises, etc., can get a much better understanding of the characteristics of the network, what's going on with the network, and even what we're going to be talking about here today, the security aspects of what's going on with the network as well. So essentially, we provide visibility to network and to the traffic.
Makes sense. Now, like you see, on that topic of security, I think most people might not even think about the fact that analytics and looking into what's happening on the network can actually help in terms of security. I guess, what's your view and what's the company's view on the importance of being able to provide to operators and enterprises the fact that you can look into what's happening across your network and use that insight to realize that, hey, maybe there is a security issue going on, maybe there's a DDoS attack happening. I guess what can you guys bring to the table there in terms of being able to kind of let operators and enterprises know what's happening in their network there?
Right. About a year ago or so, Gigamon came out with the security delivery platform as part of our GigaSecure offering. And what we did with that was to move away from the well-established concept of the border. So everyone has always accepted that the border is where you stop security attacks, and to a larger or lesser extent that has been true. But what's gone on more recently with advanced persistent threats is now that the attackers are in the network. You can't essentially stop them anymore, and it's time to use visibility to be able to see where on the network those attackers are, where the threats are, how the data is being exfiltrated, from which part of the network to which other part of the network, and then how the data is, how the traffic, the data, the information is leaving the network. So the security delivery platform that we brought out about a year ago or so, that allows enterprises, operators to get a much better idea of where the attacks are on the network, where the information is leaking, and things like this. Now, more recently, what we've done for the service provider market is to concentrate that security delivery platform and the way that we deliver the traffic to various different analytic tools, the different types of security tools, to make it subscriber aware. So the argument being here is that not all subscribers are created equal. There's different threats from different subscribers, different threats from different handset types, from different UEs, and also the app stores themselves have different threat characteristics. There could be more malware associated with one and less associated with another. So what we're doing by being subscriber aware and device aware is to allow operators to be able to point those security tools at the right, the right types of traffic, the right types of subscribers, the ones that are in general are much more risky. So we're moving forwards, and we're helping operators, also enterprises, the federal governments, to be able to get an idea of where these security threats are on the network, but from the perspective of helping them to understand where on the network the problems are, and not just necessarily with the border protection anymore. And again, we from the recent election, we believe that there's certainly plenty of attacks out there. We recently saw a large operator in Europe this past week be brought down. So the border protection just doesn't work anymore. And now it's time to use visibility and Gigamon's visibility fabric to be able to get an idea of where on the network these threats are, so on and so forth. So that's what we're doing with security, Dan.
Yeah, it makes sense, and it does seem like you said. I mean, this whole aspect of kind of thinking of a border around a network. The way networks are evolving nowadays, with software and operators branching out to so many different services. Right. There is no longer that border. I mean, these borders are they're porous borders now, and it's pretty much operators are all over the place. It does seem like having a different way to kind of see what's happening on the network is so important to kind of this new world order that we're coming into in terms of how these operators are running their networks today.
Sure. So if you take a look back to yesteryear, and yesteryear in telco cycles is really is only a few months ago, right?
True.
But we had dedicated hardware running firmware, and that doesn't really exist now as much anymore. So now we have open source software running on top of off the shelf servers. So everything is now software. So how do you get the visibility into the integration? How do you work out if there's other nefarious workloads that are working on those servers that are stealing the traffic? How do you know what's going on and where on the network? So there's brand new security considerations that we don't see in the enterprise space. They're coming into the telco space. So DNS is one. I mean, you do see DNS issues in the enterprise, but not to the way that you can steal massive amounts of traffic off of an operator's network. So we see DNS with diameter problems. There is no diameter on enterprise networks. So largely speaking, all of the existing security tools for the enterprise are not going to really do that much in the service provider space, because they don't support the protocols that that are absolutely crucial in the telco space, diameter being one. So so if somebody can get access to diameter and decode diameter, then you've really got access to just about everything. AAA, all of the admission control, all of the sensitive user traffic, and you can take that off to wherever you want to go. All of the billing information, things like this. And with DNS, then if you can spoof the DNS and forward it, point it to a different address, again, all of a sudden you can steal all of that traffic off the network. So these are significantly different issues than what we generally tend to see on the enterprise network, specifically around diameter. That is, anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess, what about the scalability part of all this? Because I think, a lot of companies might be worried about, hey, we've got a large operation or even a small operation. Is something like this scalable to what I'm trying to do in the market today?
Right. I mean, that absolutely is crucial for a service provider. I mean, with carriers, so for example, China Mobile, 800 million subscribers. We've got carriers in the US, 100, 110, 150 million subscribers, etc. I mean, these are huge networks with huge amounts of traffic. So you're right. How do you scale for this? Well, with our subscriber-aware security, what we can do there is to scale the traffic to fit either existing security tools or security scripts that the carriers may be running, or even next generation security tools for the telco space alone. And what's actually interesting is that we're beginning to see very early developments of brand new security tools for the telco space. Now, obviously, these are not going to be able to scale. So what we're doing there is those security tools sit behind the Gigamon visibility fabric, and we can scale the traffic on the network to be able to drive these new telco-specific security tools. So let's just say that the tool wants to see one flow in every 100, or one flow in every 1,000, or even one flow in every 50. Then we can do that, and we can give those tools subscriber-aware information so that they can track specific subscribers, specific handsets, specific services, and then you can argue specific apps, so that the carriers can send just the type of traffic they want into those tools for further analysis. So it helps the operators to keep to right size the business expenses by not necessarily needing to analyze all of the traffic. They can analyze now the traffic that is of high risk, or the traffic that the tools frankly can process. So yeah, we're doing quite a lot on that, as well as optimizing the traffic, correlating the GTP, removing headers and things like this.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to ask you a little bit about, I guess, the financial implications for operators, because again, obviously the security aspect is a big part of all of this. Operators want to make sure the networks are secure, but again, if they can find a way to do this in a cost-efficient manner, that makes it even obviously more appealing to the guy who writes the check there. So I'm guessing for you guys, being able to kind of bring this to market in a way that can integrate with what's kind of already in place, but also then provide greater efficiencies for real-time analytics and analyzing what's happening in the network. I'm guessing that's another kind of benefit to what you guys can bring to the market there.
Right. So there's two answers we have for that, and they're both very new developments. So We've seen large parts of the industry move to public cloud offerings, such as Amazon Web Services. And just last week, I believe we released our offering for visibility into Amazon Web Services. So there's an Amazon show, Amazon Invent or reInvent, going on this week, and we're demoing that this week there. And what that allows, either enterprises or operators to do, is to be able to now, for the first time, get true visibility into these workloads that are sitting on public clouds. So that's that helps with the cost of things, because of course that's on demand. The visibility is on demand as an add-on service on top of the compute and infrastructure. And then another thing that we've done in the last 2 weeks or so, we're pretty busy at Gigamon these days with all of the innovation here, is we've brought out our HC1, which is sits more towards the edge of the network. So now we have, from the very smallest to the very largest of nodes to be able to capture traffic and then aggregate it across the network. And the interesting thing as well, from a in the telco world, from a OpenStack and NFV way of doing things, is that the Amazon offering is all virtual. So we now have our features, our GigaSmart features, our intelligence optimization features, to now be available in the cloud for the first time. So we're also moving with the industry and hosting these capabilities in the cloud, so that they're not necessarily hardware-only features anymore. They can now be hosted, or of course, if you want a fully integrated solution, then that's available as well.
Yeah, I mean, that focus on the public cloud is a big part, because I know operators are becoming more aggressive in kind of rolling out public cloud into their cloud offerings to enterprises. But again, the security aspect is always a bit of a challenge, because enterprises always want to make sure that, at the end of the day, that's kind of an important part for them. But to be able to have that kind of visibility into a public cloud environment, that seems like that's got to be a nice way for the operators to feel a little more secure and offering those services to their enterprise customers.
Sure. So let's take 2 examples on that one then. So both from the service provider telco managed services perspective, and then also from the AWS Amazon Web Services perspective as well. So if you have an enterprise that's using services from AWS, that they have their workloads there, then they weren't able to connect legacy security tools into an AWS environment, because there was nowhere to connect that, those tools to be able to get visibility to that traffic. So now enterprises, for the first time, can connect and get visibility and connect the security tools into AWS to find out what's going on their network. So at least they're covered from that perspective. And if you flip the coin onto the telco side of things, the operator side of things, then with managed services, where operators are offering managed services out to large enterprises, then those large enterprises can now get an idea of the traffic that the service provider is providing them, the managed service. And very often that's going to be done on a private cloud, an operator's private cloud with OpenStack and so on and so forth. And then they can gain visibility to the traffic, so they can connect their NPM, APM, CEM tools, but they can also now connect in the security tools as well. Now, one of the again, in the last few weeks here, so we've released another feature called overlapping flow samples, and that allows, and I think we talked about this recently here, but what that allows a carrier to do is to be able to set up multiple different sampling groups, so that, for example, if a security tool only processes at a fraction of the throughput processing speed of an NPM or APM tool, then we can provide the same traffic but a much smaller sample of traffic, so that the security tool can have an idea of what's going on, but not necessarily drowned in all of that traffic. So so for the first time, we can drive, for the first time in the industry, we can drive a tool rail fully, properly, with the right traffic, with the right, the filtered traffic, with the right input speed into the tools, and whether those tools are either virtual or whether they're physical, or whether the traffic itself is coming from a virtual source or from a physical source such as AWS or a traditional telco network, then we can provide monitoring basically all the way across the network, and to be able to drive security tools as well.
Interesting. And like you said, to the software part of all this, again, that's becoming a bigger part of the networks as well. You guys obviously are doing a lot of work in terms of software. It seems like it's helping you guys roll out new services and functions on a pretty rapid basis. It sounds like you're pretty busy there. I guess that's become a big part of this as well. I'm guessing you're seeing a lot of input from operators in terms of wanting to have these platforms and virtualized environments, I'm guessing.
Exactly. So we now have an operator customer on every continent that we do business in that has taken our subscriber-aware visibility solution. So that's fantastic news. Very happy with that. Something I've been very involved with personally for the last year and a half or so. And that's our FlowView solution. And that's allowing operators to do some truly amazing things. They can now underwrite specific services. They can underwrite specific subscribers, and they can find the craziest corner cases, in terms of debugging. Because what they can now do is they can do a multi-dimensional analysis of the problems on the network, and even send that same traffic, the problematic traffic, to multiple different tools all at the same time in an overlapping way, so that if a subscriber, for example, is in a park listening to over-the-top services. And that park happens to have a lot of other people listening to over-the-top services at the same time during a lunch break, for example. Then they can home down or they can home in on the device, the location, the type of traffic, and the amount of other people that are there also doing the same thing. So this multidimensional analysis that Gigamon helps the tool vendors to be able to provide into the operators is a unique capability in the industry. And what it allows the service providers to do is to really focus on those subscribers that can bear that service, and they can then elevate subscribers up to be able to increase the ARPU, or frankly, if there's subscribers out there that don't want to go in that direction, and they can choose different levels of service with that are compensated in different ways. So it really allows the operators to tune the business models.
Yeah, that granularity is impressive as part of all those things. Because again, like you said, it does allow the operators to really fine tune what they're trying to do out there. I mean, operators, they only have so many resources in their network, and to be able to kind of fine tune where those resources are directed, that's an important part for what they're trying to do out there. And obviously, deploying networks is expensive, and so if they can somehow manage those costs by being a little more precise with where they're putting resources, again, another cost savings, it seems like, for them, and also a service savings as well.
Right. Now, if you sort of roll all of this forwards, then the visibility, the devices, security, then of course that generally takes us into the direction of IoT as well, because you're going to have brand new networks with very different characteristics, with different types of devices that can't sustain that sort of level of QoE, QoS, so they don't really need it, and they also produce or provide a way different amount of revenue ARPU onto the network. So what we can then do is we can separate all of these different types of devices, subscribers, so on and so forth, and to be able to say, the operator can then decide what they want to monitor, why, how, with what tools, and to what levels, and being device aware, whether that's IMEI, IMSI, or MISDN. On the mobile side of things, then we'll be able to separate out the IoT devices, and then give them a different treatment, or specific types of treatment versus regular subscribers. Again, it's really all up to the operator and whatever tools are connected to the network. Yeah,
and I'm guessing, again, like I said, as the IoT market starts to kind of really gain some traction, I'm guessing for you guys that'll be some other opportunities to kind of get into the market with new products out there, and obviously kind of keep you guys, I'm sure, busy. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more innovation come from you guys over the next several months and years.
Indeed, I think I've probably just covered about 6 months worth of innovations in about 5 minutes flat there. But it's been quite a busy few months here at Gigamon.
That's for sure. Well, hey, Andy, always great to talk to you. Great to get some insight on what's happening there at Gigamon. And again, in the security space, having companies out there that are working really hard to make sure that operators can get that visibility to the network is key to what they're trying to do. And obviously, it's good for the whole market in general. So good luck there for you guys. And again, thanks so much for the time and insight today. And hopefully we'll touch base again soon.
Thank you very much, Dan. I always appreciate the chat, and thanks to everyone listening in as well. Okay, bye-bye.
Very good. Thanks.